So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
So I guess to start off, I was just wondering if you could go into your background a bit and what started your interest in music and how did it lead to scoring for visual mediums and how did you focus on that area?
Oh gosh. Well, music has always been part of my life. I mean, ever since I can remember, there was always music at, with my family growing up. Music always going on. I started studying piano at age 5, and uh, I was even interested in composition then. I mean, I remember writing my first song called "Rainy Day" when I was 5 years old, and it's a distinct memory for me. Just the the joy of creating new music, even at that age. And so I played piano all growing up. I also played viola. Um, so with viola, I got to know the orchestra, playing in viola sections
Hmm.
various orchestras growing up through high school and college. And so all that time I was um, also writing music in addition to my private studies on the instruments. And I kind of got a little bit more serious about writing in high school and college. And by the time I finished my undergrad, I thought, I really want to pursue composition, in a more, rigorous and deeper way. So I applied to Juilliard because I always wanted to study with John Corigliano
Hmm.
uh, for my master's degree because he was my hero. I love the music he wrote, uh, not only for films, but also for his concert music.
Right.
And and then I was lucky enough to be accepted there, and I got to study with him, and it was really a fantastic experience. Um, I really feel like I grew as a composer by being able to study with him. He's a great mentor all around. And and after that, I got a Fulbright to go study in Italy with Hans Henze, also really a fantastic mentor. And Henze is really into writing dramatic music. I mean, he wrote oodles of operas,
Hmm.
um, and so that was a real education in terms of learning how to tell a story and control pacing and emotion with music, sort of using a concert, classical style. So that was also a great learning experience for me. And I started thinking about writing for film and television a couple years later when I had some friends in film school and I just got to score their short films and I was kind of hooked. It was so much fun writing music for picture,
Hmm.
and I kind of just kept pursuing it from that angle, and it's been a lot of fun basically.
Did you grow up? I mean, did you watch movie? Were you a movie buff when you grew up?
Yeah, some movies. I mean, I was I was drawn to movies, of course, that have the kind of movie music that I really enjoy, which
Hmm.
is a lot of orchestral music. So I remember, all the big movies of, growing up, Star Wars, the whole Star Trek series, um, all those movies, the Goldsmith movies from the 80s. It was really all fantastic scores. So I was really drawn to those type of movies.
So, and working on television, like for shows like The Event and Drop Dead Diva. I guess the TV poses different types of time frames and deadlines. And how long do you usually have to score one episode of something like The Event from start to finish?
It's usually a week,
Just
and it's uh, it's a real sprint to get it done, especially for the event. I mean, the event is about 35 to 40 minutes of music a week. Drop Dead Diva is somewhere in the 20 to 25 range, um, and it's both the shows are music that I love to write. I think they're both dream jobs, completely different genres, but
right.
really great shows to be writing for, and music that I feel like is resonates with me, and I don't feel like I'm stepping outside of my being to to write these scores, and especially the event. I mean, the event is music that a style of writing that is close to what I consider my true voice. You know, if I were to sit down and write concert music, it would probably have elements of the event in it, and vice versa.
Right. Um, Working on a TV show, is it hard to I guess stay focused on the big picture of the series? Like, I mean, when you write music, are you focusing like at the episode at hand? Or are you trying to create like a long, you know, arc of music that thinking about the end of the episode versus just working in the moment? Or are you trying to keep the whole big picture in mind too?
Oh gosh, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I do think about the big picture a lot. I think about really critical themes and how they tie the whole season's arc together. So those scenes, I will sort of step back for a second and think, how is this going to link to other episodes and make the scene somehow special and memorable for the audience? Because music could subliminally tie that moment to other moments in the
Right.
series.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it, there's something to be said about sort of floating along with the episode with the audience and scoring the emotion as the story comes at you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to overthink it too much, but to the extent that it is useful to connect characters and emotions and storylines, I like to do that, definitely.
So, I guess touching back to where you started working with John Corigliano, who is an amazing talent. What was the most important thing you learned from him when you were starting out?
It's to The most important thing is to look deep inside yourself and find that real creative voice, your own true voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's if that's the one most important thing I learned from him.
All right.
And
Yeah.
it's an interesting, which is sort of an interesting conundrum when you think about the timelines of the amount of time that you get for TV and television. It's basically, can you get the music done by tomorrow?
Right.
And to be able to take a moment and think about what should the music really be, to be special to that project and also represent a unique voice to the extent that it still fits in the genre of whatever you're scoring, is an important moment to take, and even if it's a short moment, it still should be taken.
Have you ever felt like you were just at any certain point during like TV scoring? Have you felt like you were just trying to meet a deadline? You're like, okay, I'm gonna have to sacrifice something here, is just so I can get this done. I mean, have you ever been put in that position?
it's it's never a sacrifice, but there is nothing like a deadline to get something done.
Okay.
I always think about writing music. It's it's sort of like the universal gas law. It expands to fill the available time.
Uh huh.
So if you give me a week, it's going to take me a week. If you give me a month, it'll take me a month. And I'm that perfectionist. I will keep refining and refining and filling the time until the deadline hits.
So you've also worked in documentaries like The Wonder of It All, and how do you approach? I've talked to a few other composers who've done documentaries, and I just wonder, how do you approach scoring something like that versus a work of fiction? Are there any many major differences to how you write or what the goals of your music are in something like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, in documentary, typically there's a lot of montage and interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So the music doesn't have to, necessarily score, beat by beat, moment by moment, the way that a feature film or episodic television, you sort of build it brick by brick, and then you get to the end, one brick at a time. Whereas, in documentary, um, the music kind of washes over the dialogue a little bit more and the storytelling. Um, so it's not as, gosh, I hate this word, but manipulative,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, because a lot of the dialogue and interviews that sort of come at you um, are sort of processed stream of consciousness more, and a lot of the music is just to help pace those interviews and help the audience sort of distill what they're hearing in sections, in a sort of in the way that you would sit through a college lecture. If you know what the mile points are, the mileposts in the lecture, then it helps you process what you're learning from the documentary. I think about music that way to help really process a lot of information, because so much comes at you in a
Right.
documentary. You sort of need something to help you pace it and process and internalize it.
Do you ever find yourself scoring, like, I mean, if there's a certain maybe character aspect or an important individual in the story, do you find yourself trying to maybe dip back into kind of film like thought process and give him, music for his journey?
Oh, definitely. For example, in documentary, you mean, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's still character themes and geographic themes that I would create, which I did for The Wonder of It All. And so yes, it is still storytelling, but the sort of style of writing and the manicuring of the music is slightly different
Ah,
in my mind.
okay. um, well, I guess to kind of bring things to a close, I always like to ask composers if you could score any film ever made with no disrespect to the original composer, what movie would you choose?
Oh wow, that's gosh, I have so many favorite movies. Um, well, if I think about recent movies that really resonated with me that I would have loved to have taken a crack at, Inception was just a phenomenal movie last year that is the kind of thing that I would love to sit down and
Hmm.
take a crack at scoring. So
It's a
yeah.
good choice. I love Hans, so that would be always an interesting take.
I love that score, but I would have loved to have, tried it, my way as well.
Right. Any projects coming up on the horizon?
Nothing I can uh, say in public
Okay.
yet.
Well, Scott, it was great doing this. I hope we can do it again real soon. But
Likewise.
thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It was a real pleasure.
Much. Let's stay in touch.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
baby.